Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Nicole D. Miller, author, blogger, speaker, hybrid book publisher, and your host. At Girl Talk, we are a safe space for female leaders to engage in healing and edifying conversation. This is your Me Too empathetic corner, where we have authentic and transformative dialogue designed to uplift and connect high-achieving women like you. Are you looking for a safe space to cultivate sisterhood with other like-minded female bosses? Leave your cape at the door and join the conversation. Hi guys, and welcome to Girl Talk 101. I'm your host, Nicole D. Miller, and we're in the midst of a powerful discussion with Jenna Edwards. Jenna shares with us her miraculous story of overcoming a health crisis, a mental health crisis, and devastating life-altering circumstances. Jenna was in the 2003 Santa Monica Farmers Market crash, a nationally known horrific event that changed the trajectory of her life, one that she was lucky to have survived, which killed several and injured many. Jenna is a walking miracle, and I'm honored to be in dialogue with her about her resiliency. We discuss her career as an actor turned director and how she kept her eye on the ball, even as she rebuilt her mental health. I encourage you to share this episode with someone you know who needs hope to keep choosing life after facing death. Or if you're an artist, creative, actor, director, etc., tap in, and you'll get insight into someone's journey who made it. You can learn more about Jenna in the show notes below. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join the conversation.
The professional will tell you that. Like, don't listen to your own self for the level of badness, right? Um, because when you're in a health crisis like that, your ability to assess the situation is skewed.
Agreed. Your mindset isn't even healthy enough to give an adequate assessment of your
Yes,
circumstances.
exactly.
Wow. And I'm like blown away about the not sleeping part. I take naps every day. I'm like, oh my God,
Oh,
I
I'm
can't even
so
imagine.
protective.
I can't imagine not sleeping. And then you're terrorized and tormented, and you're
Hmm.
living with this nightmare. Like your life is a nightmare. So for
Yeah,
you to come back from that. Now, how long since the accident to you writing your book? How long was that time period?
15 years.
Okay. How was your experience? Because this is like my area of writing, and I'm
Hmm.
interested to hear. How was your experience writing it 15 years later? Did you feel removed from it? Did it dig up a lot of um, trauma, residue? How was that?
Well, I was lucky enough to have some really great therapy, so I don't hold that trauma in my body anymore. And I think that made it a lot easier for me to write. I think the thing that I struggled with and why it took so long to write it was because, and hear me if you're an author, please listen for a second, because this has been always my biggest issue is that I listen to other people's opinions more than I listen to my own. And I wanted to tell this story for a very specific reason, and that was to help people, young people, right? And everybody who knew my story had their own version of what story I should tell. And most of those were some sort of nonfiction. And my issue with that was I lost my mind. So, like, I'm going to write a nonfiction story about an event that is very, like, it made national news. And what if I tell it wrong because I don't remember it accurately? Like, that was just too much pressure for me. So I kept putting the book off until one day I was like, you know what? I'm writing this as a novel. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I just want to write it, get the story out there, and move forward with my life. And so once I made that decision, I worked with an editor in a publishing company who was fantastic. Like, y'all do amazing work. If you are in the publishing industry and you are an editor like Nicole, amazing. And but it still took me a minute to understand the relationship between me and the editor, right? Like the creative editor is there to guide you. And it was so funny. There was this one point where I got so frustrated because I really wanted this book to be written in a specific voice, and that voice is not as articulate as maybe a voice that would be in the Great American Novel, right? And so my poor editor is trying to give me notes on how to like phrase certain sentences. And I had to like have a little come to Jesus with myself about what the purpose of the book was, because sometimes we can get in our creative projects and they can become about us. And I didn't want this book to be about me, even though it's my story, which is like such a mind meld, right? And so I had to be really upfront and honest and in the most loving and professional way to be like, I know you're trying to make me a better writer, but that's not the purpose of this book. This book's purpose is to tell a story that is relatable to these like young people, and they don't care about my sentence structure. Like, and so there were a couple of conversations more like that, but what really like solidified in me during that process was having a very clear intention for why you're doing what you're doing. And it can't just be like, I just want to write something. I mean, it can be if that really is your intention, but then you're going to probably come away with something that doesn't have a clear voice.
And I love that you pull back the curtains and give us the behind the scenes of your book writing process. I am so appreciative of my editors. Piper is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But there is that tension, and I've come across this with my beta readers, and I'm in the process of my third novel, and so I'm in that beta reading space where you as the author and the creative have to weigh the feedback, have to weigh
Yeah.
the input. You want your story to land and you want it to be well received, but you also have to stay true to like what's in your heart,
Hmm.
right? And I think you've done that.
Absolutely. How do you do that?
I
Look at
sit
me
with
turning the
it.
tables.
Yeah, right, right. I sit with it, and some things I'll change if I see that it's valid. But if I'm sitting with it long enough and it's still not resonating with me, I go with what's in my gut.
Love it.
Yeah.
You gotta, because it's your voice, right? And I also think it's I think my experience producing really helped me in the writing process, because I remember on my first feature, it was written and directed by a survivor of Columbine. And so the story was like so deep and personal and um just profoundly just like there's so many words, right? But the director and I had a very clear idea of what we wanted the film to do once it was done, right? Like just what, like I was saying, my book was for young people to have an idea of somebody they could relate to that overcame mental health issues. His dream and goal and our goal as a team was to get this movie into as many theaters, schools, you name it. Like we wanted it to appeal to a larger audience. And so we were in the editing room after we like painstakingly filmed this movie, because that's a whole other story. Oh my gosh. Um, but like I, as a producer, made a very deliberate decision not to be on set while we were filming, because I didn't want to know how hard it was to get the scenes filmed, because in the editing room, my job is going to be that doesn't make sense. You have to cut it. And if I knew how hard it was to get it, it would be very difficult for me to say, you have to cut it, right? And so we would have these conversations where we would both have to constantly be reminding each other of what the actual goal of this movie was. And so as I was writing the book and working with the editor, I was always like going back to that. Like, what's the goal of the book? And it's not just to write a book. It's not to become famous because you wrote a book. It's to do this thing. Does the story do that? And there were a couple of times where I was really well known to be like, you can't take this movie, you can't be in every theater explaining why you kept this scene in. It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to me, it's certainly not going to make sense to the wider audience. So we have to like let it go. And there is some truth when they say like it's like killing your babies. Like these are like super passionate, important scenes that moved all of us who are telling stories that are based on our own life experience, but the audience doesn't know that. And therefore, you got to kind of put your business hat on, you know?
And thank you for sharing your insight as a producer, because that's what I was thinking, like, wait, don't producers edit basically, you know? And you sharing that when I first started writing novel writing, I wrote my first novel, 105,000 words. It actually was probably like up to 110. And so because I knew nothing
Oh
about
my God.
the like rules, I didn't know about literary rules. All I knew was like, I'm a good storyteller and this is a great story. And so I'm writing and writing and writing. Oh my
I
God.
love it.
That's my editor. Thank God for her. And she had to teach me. And she's like, you have the makings of an amazing novel, but this and this and this and this.
Right.
So now that
And
I'm right, right. But now that I'm on my third, even the one I just finished, oh my God, it's so succinct. And it's like because you have knowledge of like the story has to be going to the ending, right? We have to get there.
right.
That means every chapter with books, it's like every chapter needs to be moving you towards the end of the story and needs to be important. So now I can write with such intentionality with no fluff.
Mm.
It's actually under 80,000 words.
Wow.
I know, but it's like it took me years to get there. But to your point, it's like once you have this grid, which for you is being a producer, you can
Hmm.
write with intentionality and get your story.
Totally.
Yeah,
But like, I don't know if this happens to you, but this happens to me every once in a while where I write so succinctly that it's not a good story anymore. So I have to like go back and put in adjectives and filler words and like actually paint a picture for people.
yeah.
Does that happen to you?
Well, I don't think it's happened the last two. I mean, I will see what my editor says about this one, which was like my most succinct. But I'll say I
I'm
think because
curious.
I started out with short story writing. So I
Okay.
think because I already wrote short, you know, um, I can I can develop it more in a sense where that's not difficult. But we'll see. We'll see what she says.
Amazing.
I do want to hit on you being a youth leader. Like, what
Oh, yes.
drew you into this space with young people?
Oh my gosh. I think growing up in a town with 2006 and being the big giant weirdo creative, like I was not a very normal trope in my town. And so I always felt like growing up, I always felt like people would think like who does she think she is? Or, all of those negative things and like just not a lot of people overtly believing in me, which is also a very interesting thing, right? Because I found out later, like, so many people were like, oh, yeah, of course you're moving to LA. Oh, yeah, of course you're going to be on TV. Of course, like, totally believed in me, but like externally on a daily basis made me feel like I was a cuckoo butt. Like, like, what are you doing? And so just remembering how isolating that was and um, how different my life might have been if I had adults who weren't judging me for my weirdness and were instead trying to understand it and encourage it, really drew me to that age group. I also really love that age group because they're actively trying to grow as humans. I feel like as adults, we stop growing.
Hmm.
and we're like stuck in our place. And I've just never been that person. I love learning new things. I love like seeing the world through that teenage perspective of possibility. And so that really drew me into working with youth. And it started as speaking at youth conferences. And then when I moved here, I was like, what happened? Oh, I joined the Chamber of Commerce and somebody was talking about this like opportunity to be a mentor. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And it's been so much fun. For anybody in Stark County, it's called the Legacy Project of Stark County. It's an hour a week and you just get to change people's lives. And these kids are so grateful for it. And they're funny and they're awkward because I have eighth grade girls. Like, oh, y'all are so awkward. And it's just such a great reminder of like where we, like how far we've come, you know?
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on being like kind of marching to the tune of your own beat because I wondered about that because most creatives have that stigma if they were raised as a creative. I wasn't, but I still was like the eyeball out. So yeah, and I like now I see because back in the day, books were my friends. I always said that books were my friends. I didn't
Mm,
have friends. Now I'm like, oh, this is why, right? The calling.
right.
So I'm glad that you shared that part. Now I want to know because you produced 100 films, did you say? Over
Projects.
100?
They're not all films, but
Okay,
yes,
projects.
over. I don't even know the number, honestly, you guys. Like my previous job before I moved to Ohio was working for Mattel. So I was an associate producer on all of their brands' YouTube channels. And so I think that's like honestly probably closer to 250.
Wow.
Anyway, I have a lot of experience
100.
producing
Yeah.
hundreds.
Out of the 100, which film, if you can just choose one, which film project do you feel like was most impactful to you?
Oh, definitely my first one. It was called April Showers. It was the one written and directed by a survivor of Columbine. It was by far like my film school because I didn't go to film school. So I went to the School of Hard Knocks and like we had to figure out, well, first of all, the story is so important. And it was important to me because it was after the crash and it was about the shooting, but it was more about the 5 days afterwards and how these kids had to pick up the pieces and move on and figure out which direction they were going to go in. And the director, his name's Andrew Robinson, and he's just like one of the greatest people I know. And his story was so moving. And he was such a great partner on the making of the movie that like I learned so much through that process. Do you want me to elaborate?
I'm I'm curious now because you didn't go to film school. So what was your school consisting of that you learned this craft?
You're gonna laugh so hard because it's probably gonna resonate with you. So I was in LA, I was an actor, and my one of my best friends decided to enroll in film school. We met on the set of Boston Public as extras on one of my like 2 days in my entire career as an extra. Um, and we've been friends ever since, and I just friggin' love him. Anyway, he called me up one day and he was like, Jenna, you're the most organized person I know. You need to produce my senior thesis. And I was like, first of all, no idea what a producer does, like none. And I also had few choice words for him because I was like, I am an actor. I am not a producer, right? There might have been some F words in there. But like that's literally what happened. And then for like the following year and a half, he would bug me. He'd be like, okay, my senior thesis needs to be produced. And I'm like, go jump off a cliff. Like, I'm not producing your film. And then I think like 6 months before his film needed to be done, I realized he wasn't kidding. And I was like, crap, I have no idea how to do this. And so I produced 4 short films in 6 months so that I knew how to produce his film. Sorry to anybody whose film I produced without knowing what I was doing. Um, but like, and I was working full time, like 60 hours a week. So it's like Well, but I can't let my friend down. And that is literally how I became a producer. And I ran into, I know, it's the silliest story,
Love it.
but like it goes back to the very beginning of I just walked in and was like, I don't know what to do. You guys need to tell me what to do.
I'm like, if you were from here, you would know like how crazy that was that you just walked in on the day of literally Cleveland's major statewide conference.
I mean, it's literally the story of my film career is that. Like, I just walk in and I'm like, that's how I raised the money for my first film. I, okay, I'm going to tell this story because hopefully it will give everybody some silly inspiration. And granted, we had to like raise more than this, but the way it all started was so I I was reintroduced to a film producer while I was producing one of those four short films. And she was like, "Hey, we should do something together." And I was like, "Okay." And and so then we were on Craigslist. That's right. That's how old I am. Craigslist. And Andrew had posted this thing that was like, I have a film script. I need producers. Just be cool. And I was like, I'm kind of cool. So I reached out and I kid you not, I didn't even read the script because he didn't have any money. And I was like, I don't know how to raise money. And so I'm not going to make this movie. And then the producer I had been reintroduced to literally called me up at work and was like, "Did you read the script?" I'm like, "No, he doesn't have any money." And she's like, "Read the script," and like hung up on me. And I was like, "Dang it." So now, because bane of my existence is reading scripts, it's so hard for me. But that's a whole other story. So I read the script and learned that it was like about Columbine and PTSD and like all the things that I had just been dealing with after the crash. So I called up Andrew and we talked for like an hour in the parking lot while I'm at work. And I was like, fine, okay, I'll raise money for you. And so the film market was coming up, the American film market, which is in Santa Monica every year. It's kind of like the conference that you're talking about here in Cleveland. And he's like, we should probably go there. And I'm like, okay. So I call up my co-producer and I'm like, she had just finished a film and she was going to AFM anyway. And she's like, yeah, like come with me. And if anybody knows anything about traffic in LA, it's a nightmare and you have to go. So we got up like 5 o'clock in the morning and just beat traffic to go across town to go to Santa Monica. And we got there before everybody else was there. There was one person in the lobby and I talk to everybody because I love people. And so I went up to him. I'm like, "Oh, are you here for the market?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Cool. What do you do?" He's like, "I raise money for movies." And I'm like, "I have a movie." And I kid you not, those are the people we worked with to raise money for our film.
Jenna, your steps are ordered. Okay. You cannot, you should write a book just on all of these what do they call it? Serendipity.
Serendipitous moments.
Seriously, it's insane. And I did resonate with how I got into this space. One of my good friends who she does her own conference here, which is a big deal. And she actually is a sister in our spiritual group. And her mother gave me a word. It was the year my mother passed. It was 2018. And I wasn't thinking about writing or anything, even though I had two books out, but I was more focused on my bookkeeping business. And her
Hmm.
mom gives me a word and she says, "You're going to have a book publishing business." Well, I'm not thinking anything of that. So I just put it on the shelf and she's given me words before that came to pass. But I was like, 4 years later, her daughter
Oh
comes to
my
me and
gosh.
she's like, "Publish me." And I'm like, "Read my ebook." I wrote an ebook at that time called Self-Publishing 101. It guides you through self-publishing. "No, I need you to do it." So she's your friend that's hounding
Yeah.
you.
No, totally. You're like, well, I better figure out how to do this for them.
And she just wouldn't let it go. I'm like, "Fine, fine." But that was the beginning, clearly.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Totally the same story. I love this so much.
yeah. And even me being an author, even though I had these two books published, I didn't see myself as an author. And the guy I was dating at the time, he always called me the author, the author. Drove me crazy. He would talk to his friend about me, the author. I'm like, "Why are you telling me that? You have books published." Everyone published. It's not a big deal. I didn't see it as a big deal at all. And now here I
I
am.
totally get you.
Funny now, because he and I are like really close again. But I'm like full-fledged into this author thing. And I'm like, you were the first one to tell me. I couldn't see it. And just other people will see things in you or on you before you do something.
Totally. Oh yeah, for the first like 15 years in LA, I would not call myself creative. I absolutely refused. I was like, I'm crafty. Like I can make you
Try to
a
get close
paper
to it.
collage, but I'm not creative. And that's because that's how
Wow.
I grew up, right? Like to
Yeah.
me, creativity and artistry was like learning how to oil paint
Yeah.
and like making
Yeah.
things that would hang in the Louvre. I'm like, well, clearly that's not me.
And that was me. I had a block. I would not call myself a writer, even though
Yeah.
I had two books published. But to me, I wasn't a real writer. I didn't get a traditionally published contract, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't a novelist. Like, I
Isn't
wasn't a
that
real writer.
wild?
Yeah.
And now, how have things changed since you've owned that?
And that was the shift. So when I
Mhm.
published My Friend, I talked about this. Once my mental perception of myself switched over into being a creative and a writer, that's when I took off. That's when I was able
Isn't
to
that
let go of
wild?
the limits and really dive into my gifts.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, you have to come on my podcast and talk all about that.
See you sneaking in these questions. No, we're talking
I
about you.
know.
This is my final question.
Sorry, Nicole.
My final question. Is there a movie forthcoming called Aggressive Optimism?
Oh my gosh, from your lips, my friend.
Hmm.
If if Reese Witherspoon is listening,
Yeah.
please, for the love of all that is holy, produce my movie or my book into a movie. Honestly, I wrote it based on this framework called Save the Cat. Anybody who's listening, like that's probably one of the best screenwriting books, but I used it to write my novel because I really want my novel to be a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But I
definitely.
don't know that I want to produce it, honestly, because I don't know if I'm the right person to produce it.
Well, I'm sure you're connected or connected to someone who's connected with Reese Witherspoon. Like,
I
you
mean,
know,
I
it's
gotta
about
just start
connections.
talking to people in the bathrooms.
Seriously, you know, it's all about the connections
Hmm.
and perfect timing, being in the
Yep.
right place at the right time. Well, I definitely
Yeah.
see it. I haven't even read the book yet, but I'm like, yeah, I see this for sure.
Aw, you're so sweet. Yeah, I think it would be a very beneficial book and it's fun. I compare it to like, I mean, it's Legally Blonde meets Girl Interrupted.
Yeah.
So it's got some heavy moments. Honestly, did you see Song Sung Blue?
Mm-mm. No.
Oh, it's so good. Just so you know. It's a just a super solid movie, but it's similar in that way. So we won't talk about that because you haven't seen the movie, so it doesn't matter.
Well, these are the comps for those who are listening, so they get an
Yes.
idea of like what you're going to bring to the table with aggressive
Mhm.
optimism.
Yeah.
Final question. I promise. I promise. I promise. What words of inspiration and tips, and you've given us so much, but what additional words of inspiration and tips would you give our audience, those who have dealt with crisis, are, you know, flailing around in their purpose and their career and their identity and all the things, and not even sure if the next day is worth living or,
First, I've been there. So that's a very hard question to answer in a sound bite. But I would say to anybody listening, you are more than your circumstances. And it really is a choice. And sometimes that choice super sucks. Like it's really hard to make certain choices when you're in certain situations. But I'm nothing special, honestly. So if I can do it, you can do it. That is the absolute truth. And I think the best way to go through life is to just be curious and, just remember why you're doing the thing you want to do.
and I definitely think you hit on it, right? If you can do it, they can do it. We get inspired
Yes.
by each other and by each other's resiliency and stories. Being able to be on the other side of something is testament enough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Jenna, I could talk to you all day, clearly. So we're gonna wrap up this conversation.
Same.
Wrap it up.
Okay.
And thank you so much for joining the Girl Talk podcast and platform. All of your information is going to be in the show notes for our audience. But if there's any additional information you want to share, any upcoming projects, any specific ways that we can support you, feel free to share.
I appreciate that. I am trying to launch a new YouTube channel to host my Aggressive Optimism podcast. So if y'all could go to YouTube and look up Jenna Edwards official and follow and like and just like, I'm gonna talk really quickly. I know this was like the end, but I want to say like why people ask other people to follow is so that they can get sponsors, right? So if you follow me, it's not just for my ego. It's so that I can like actually approach sponsors and take aggressive optimism on tour is like a goal of mine. And so your follow makes a bigger impact than you think.
I love it. Thank you for educating us on that. On that note, once again, thank you so much for joining. We will talk to you next time. I'm sure we're going to be supporting you by buying your books, watching the movie when it drops.
I'll have to come back on and tell y'all when it comes out.
Close
Yeah.
to it, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you again. We'll talk to you next time, Jenna.
Aw, thank you so much, Nicole.
As you can see, this was a fun interview. I love that Jenna doesn't take herself too seriously. She definitely took life on the chin and laughed it off afterward. Jenna gave us some great tips and demonstrated them in her pursuit of purpose. Her desire to publish her book was challenged by others' views of how she should do it, yet she stuck to what was in her heart, even having to push back on her editor. As I mentioned, I can relate to being an artist and an author, respecting the craft and credentials of the professionals on my own team. But at the end of the day, we have to weigh that against what is innately in our hearts. One of the key questions that Jenna incites us to ask is, what's the goal of the book? And maybe it's not a book you're writing, but a project or a thing you're doing. I think that keeping that question at the forefront will help you stay on track with your purpose. Jenna also talked about feeling isolated, like others didn't support her and being judged for being different. As a youth leader, she now offers to the youth what she missed, empowerment to be different. I love that she gave to others what she herself needed at that time. It also shows that not everyone will see your gift, but that doesn't mean it's not there. One thing Jenna said that sat with me is that most adults stop growing. It's true that kids are kind of forced to learn. School is their accountability. Maybe we grow professionally to earn more money, but as adults, we have to be intentional about seeking opportunities to grow in our personal lives. I know my friends and I have been on a path of growth and inner healing for decades now, and I hope this space at Girl Talk offers you that same resource. Another fun fact about both Jenna and me was that we learned at the School of Hard Knocks to do what we do now. It also took others to ask us to create what they needed. Sometimes others need to pull on the gift inside of you. And finally, one of the biggest takeaways I got from Jenna is that you are more than your circumstances. Whew, Selah. Well, thank you guys for joining us in another amazing discussion at Girl Talk. Feel free to reach out to Jenna in the show notes, support her book, and be on the lookout for the film when it drops, because you know it's coming. And remember, I attract amazing women doing amazing things. So guess what, sis? That means you're amazing. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. To continue the conversation, join our Girl Talk community by following @GirlTalkCLE on Instagram and Facebook.com/HTOHB, where you can join the Girl Talk Facebook group. You can follow me personally on Instagram @HTOHB, on Facebook.com/HTOHB, and at YouTube.com/@HTOHB. Feel free to reach out via email info@indiemillerpublishing.com. If you're a writer who wants to take the next steps into becoming a published author, You can book a one-on-one consultation at ndmiller.pub. Just let me know you heard about my publishing house through Girl Talk, and I'll give you a 50% discount on our one-on-one. If you like weekly inspirational nuggets, you can subscribe to my blog and monthly newsletter at NicoleDmiller.com, where you can learn more about me and my writings. Till next time.